What if you're on the right path but the wrong timeline? Most artists quit before they give themselves a chance to make an impact. They quit because they're thinking about tomorrow instead of a decade from now. They quit because they don't realize they're irreplaceable. They quit because they can't see how their work fits into something bigger than themselves. Here's the truth: the artists you're comparing yourself to have either been doing it longer than you or better than you. 9 times out of 10, it's both. They didn't blow up overnight, it just looks like that on social media. At some point, they stopped measuring success in months and started measuring in years. Or they stopped measuring at all and focused on things they could control, like creating. This framing alone changes everything. My greatest problems with creativity was me. I kept getting in my own way. Here are some mindset changes that help fix that. Thinking from the end. When I was younger, I thought about becoming an artist as a moment rather than a journey. I idolized the milestones instead of the road ahead, not realizing I was thinking short term, wanting to blow up instead of embracing the slow climb. To cut myself some slack, who doesn't? There was this conflict in what I thought I wanted and what I actually wanted. I wanted a career, not to go viral or be an overnight success. I had to figure out what I wanted, and more importantly, what I was willing to sacrifice. The slow grind sacrifices the seemingly instant fame and fortune for a career that will last a lifetime. I learned that this is what I truly wanted when I observed the artists that I admire. The fastest and brightest stars burn the quickest. Like in science, this manifests in art. Rappers like Kendrick, Freddie Gibbs, 2 Chainz, Benny the Butcher, you name it, have been rapping for decades before they saw any acclaim. This foundation, however, is the catalyst for why you still know their names today. The longer you can think, the further you can go. The short-term artist is chasing the algorithm, jumping trends to trends, making music they don't even believe in, putting more time into other people's songs without developing their own. It's like a car headed nowhere fast, speeding towards a destination they may never make it to. The long-term artist is working on the basics, studying mixing, songwriting, arrangement, music theory, slowly implementing each new concept into their art every day. Eventually, they build a sound of their own that no other artist can replicate. Let's say I have a contract that guarantees you'll be successful in 10 years. Would you sign it? Do your behaviors align with that statement? Daily tasks look very different from those trying to accomplish something in a year versus those trying to accomplish something in a decade. The longer the time horizon, you focus on mastery instead of just getting good. You focus on intricacies, you focus on nuance, you focus on all the little things that build something great. What does this look like for me? Instead of drawing notes on piano roll, I want to actually play piano. Instead of guessing which melodies will sound good, I want to understand music theory. Instead of accidentally making a hit, I want to understand song structure. You get the point, right? I just hate the feeling of doing something good or getting praise and not knowing why. Personally, I just want my toolbox to be as limitless as possible, which will take a lot of time and patience. You're trading instant gratification for a bigger goal, which is tough. It directly opposes human nature. Humans love instant gratification, but it's exactly why your reward will be larger in the end. You'll be able to accomplish things other artists won't be able to because you put in more effort, more time, and more dedication. It's bigger than your ego. Ego-based creativity is shallow. It doesn't see the bigger picture. Chasing virality, chasing trends, numbers, attention-dependent outputs, focusing on outputs like fame, fortune, rather than improving your craft. All of these things lead to a dead end. If you ever had a thought about quitting, it's because your ego wants applause. The art itself doesn't care about any of that. Any of that outside noise, any of these numbers, any of these vanity metrics. The art just wants to exist. One of the greatest indicators in how likely someone is to accomplish something is their purpose for doing so. Knowing why you're doing something will take you infinitely further than any other question you could ask. The questions about when, where, how, all figure themselves out if you have a strong enough why. I just want to contribute like all artists before me. That's my why. I want to contribute to what I often name the web of creativity. You're already a part of this web, whether you realize it or not. Someone you will never meet, probably doesn't even exist right now, will be inspired and impacted by your art, just as you were by all the artists that came before you. this example is prominent in sampling. I think about the Funky Drummer sample a lot. It is the most sampled drum break of all time, played by Clyde Stubblefield on this James Brown song. And that drum break has superseded the notoriety of Clyde Stubblefield, even though he's a legendary drummer in his own right. But if you're not a drummer, chances are you don't know him by name. However, there have been countless samples and iterations of this one drum break, and he has completely changed the course of music and music history entirely off one drum break, one song, and I think we all have an impact, that has an opportunity to be greater than we can realize. Another example of inspiration from artists of the past is personally with Marvin Gaye. Right, I'm a huge Marvin Gaye fan. And this man lived and died before I was born by a great margin. That man died in the 80s, right? And I'm really inspired by how he layers and stacks his vocals. And I'm watching these old interviews, and he got that from barbershop quartets, and that leads down a whole different rabbit hole and different path or strain on the web of the creativity that I could never imagine as well. I didn't know anything about barbershop quartets. I was just very unfamiliar with barbershop quartets, and they have no idea the impact they made on Marvin Gaye, which made an impact on me, and all these people died before any of that effect had a chance to reach me, right? And I just know, big or small, your art has a chance to impact the future generation. I think it's important to not mitigate how important that is. And I want to correlate the impact on people you never knew existed, will never know exist, and how that can impact an entire generation. Many artists, especially writers, oh my God, are not appreciated during their time, but even after their time, right? So you don't know, and probably never will know, how much of an impact your art is making, but that doesn't mean it's less valuable because you didn't get recognition in the moment. I could go on forever. I could think about Edgar Allan Poe, or I could think about, it's countless artists just weren't appreciated during their time, but made immeasurable impact in the future. You could look at artists like, we could look at artists that's technically underground or seen as underground. Jay Dilla, MF Doom, literally inspired an entire generation of producers. But these are, again, seemingly underground producers, but countless hip-hop producers came under them and studied their craft, and all they did were focusing on the craft adamantly, and did what only they could do. And again, their role, which they understood very well, is to create and not get in the way or try to be bigger than the art itself. This is a long way of saying it's not about you. As creatives, I believe you're meant to fulfill this purpose of creating. If not, you are actively diminishing the future landscape that future artists can take from, and be inspired by, and sample or whatever you may have. Right? It's beautifully paradoxical, right? Every artist, regardless of how large or small or impact or whatever, right? No matter what, all artists have the same role, to create the best you can with all you have. And that's how I define success in art. And this realization that it's not about you can be humbling, but to me it's a lot of freedom gained. I don't internalize criticism from myself or others. I don't limit myself regardless of what I've done in the past. Nothing can define me because my art is not me. It's an extension of me, but I'm merely the vessel that it came from. This realization actually allowed me to flow better creatively. I'm not trying to force my own way or be the judge of what's good or what's bad art. The work wants to exist, and my job is to let it. I don't really search for external validation. I can just be happy whether 1 million people or 10 people view and like and appreciate my content, because again, you can't know and can't measure your impact. Think about it. Most artists get their most recognition, their most appreciation when they're gone. It's just a immutable fact, and you have no idea the impact you're gonna make on somebody. I'm happy regardless As long as I put out, I know I'm making an impact into the web of creativity, and that's all I can ask for. And yes, that sounds cliche, but I genuinely mean that. Thinking like this has greatly freed my cognitive load. I'm no longer focused on things outside of my control, which allows me to be even more creative. No one else can do this, which might sound like it contrasts. This is not about you, but let me tell you why it's not. I carry this duty-filled curse of competence, and I believe all artists are unique, but just don't dig deep enough. I'm well aware of my uniqueness. I'd hear an old record, that none of my peers are currently listening to, and know that even if they were, we would have two totally different approaches to sampling. I realized early that my uniqueness is irreplicable. Not because I'm better than anybody else, but because no one can beat me at being me. And the same goes for you. At a certain point, it becomes more so about not squandering the opportunity that is in front of you, not squandering your uniqueness, not squandering your inheritance of great art that was made before you, and not squandering, the access and the opportunity of great art that we do have. No prior generation has the access to great art that we do. Artists love to talk about how saturated the market is, and it is, but it isn't. The world is saturated, and the content landscape is saturated with, I don't know, over-polished, algorithm-driven, AI-centric noise, but it's not authenticity. You know that feeling when someone is being real, like really, really real? It's a breath of fresh air and seemingly a cloud of smoke, and I think that's the direction art and content in general is going in. I think authenticity will be more sought after and more appreciated, and uniqueness as well, more appreciated in the upcoming future as things become more AI driven. So I really encourage all artists to lean into that. The world needs you more than you realize. You have to be the one to realize this though. You are unique. Think about it mathematically, right? Your hometown plus your favorite artist plus your obsession plus your experience plus your perspectives, blah, 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 blah. This is all a combination that has never existed before and will never exist again. So don't conform. You are the niche. Use your potential as a motor, closing the gap between the art you know you could create and the art that you create today. You are the only person who can do your job. The question is, are you going to give yourself enough time to do so? Think in decades, not months. Feed the work, not the ego. Be unapologetically you. The world needs what only you can create. Don't quit before you give it the chance.